how we as women specifically um, encounter fear in many different ways. And it really keeps us from building the lives that we really truly dream of. And so we don't end up living out our dreams or fulfilling our dreams because there's some type of fear that is keeping us and stopping us from moving forward. Thinking about fear, what can get rid of fear? There's a lot of things that I could tell you and techniques that I could tell you that would help you to overcome and conquer certain things when it comes to fear. And not too long ago, I put up a post that kind of talked about some of the steps that you can take and to overcome fear. But the reality of it is, there's only one thing that will overcome fear, and that is love. Perfect love casts out all fear. And that particular scripture comes from the Bible in 1 John 4:18. And the interesting thing about this particular verse, and I'm pulling it up now on my phone just so I can read it to you, is I always remember it saying, perfected love casts out all fear. I always remember that. Perfect love casts out all fear. But that's really not the whole of the verse. And there's so much more around verse 18 that it would not be of any service to us if we didn't read it within the context of what it is talking about. And so first of all, when we're talking about 1 John 4, chapter 4, and we start back, and I'm not going to read all the way through, but I encourage you to read it through in your own time. If we start back at verse 7, it's talking about God being love and how he loved us first and how we can love one another. And that's really what it's all about, is showing love and being love to one another and loving one another because God first loved us, right? But then it goes down to verse 18, and it says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. And then it goes on. This is the same verse. It goes on to say in the same exact verse, verse 18, for fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. Fear has to do with punishment. So if you are experiencing fear in any part of your life, whether it be fear of failure, fear of whatever it is, because there's so many different ways that you can be in fear. But the bottom line is that you're scared of something, and the bottom line is you have not been perfected in love. And I'm not just talking about love from other people, but I'm talking about vertical love, not horizontal, not your horizontal relationships, but your vertical relationship with God, with your creator. Have you been overwhelmed by the love of God? And if fear is a way of punishment, if fear means that you are expecting and fear is about punishment, why are you punishing yourself? When you go on after verse 18, it actually goes on to talk about we love because he first loved us. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. So thinking about that particular verse and that part of the verse, if you are not loving yourself, then how is it really possible for you to express love to anyone else? And how can you say that you truly love God if you haven't learned how to love yourself? So first things first is we have to understand we have to be overwhelmed with the love of God. We have to learn how to love ourselves, because if the Bible is saying that if you hate your brother, if you do not love your brother who you have seen, when you're looking in the mirror, you're looking at yourself. And if you cannot even love the reflection that you see in yourself, how is it possible for you to love on God the way that he designed us to? And how is it possible for you to receive the love that he's trying to give you? You are his creation. You are his daughter. You are his masterpiece. Flaws and all, you are the beloved. And so we have to see ourselves as the beloved. You are the loved one, the beloved one. And when we can start to really sit in that and really bask in the love of God in that way, fear will start to dissipate. It's not just taking the steps and moving forward, although that is part of it, and that's part of overcoming fear. because I can remember times when I have been in fear, and still there are many moments where I have fear of some kind popping up and creeping up. And so you have to do things to take a step forward. You have to do it knees knocking and shaking anyway. You just have to do it. That's the way to get out of fear most times. And the more that you do it, the more confidence that you get in doing the thing. See, practice creates confidence. And whether you're right and wrong in doing it, practice creates confidence. And so, I remember the saying, practice creates perfection. And that's not necessarily true, because you could very well be doing something very wrong, but you will be confident in whatever it is that you're doing wrong or right. And so the more that you practice something, the more that it becomes a habit, the more confident you get at it, even within your physical body, regardless of whether or not you're thinking about it or not. It is something that you become more confident in. And so the more that you're practicing something, you become more confident and the fear begins to dissipate. But at some point or time, if you don't take the time to actually sit back and allow God to love on you and bask in the moments where he does love on you, even through people, it'll be hard for you to continue to grow beyond that point. And so you'll still get in a place where you might get stuck. And so perfect love casts out all fear. And the only perfect love comes from God. But you have to be able to look in the mirror, look at the person that you can see, and be able to love on that person. You have to be able to love on yourself. Self-love, self-care, self-maintenance is essential to building a life of your dreams. Because if you can't take care of this body and this soul, this heart, this mind, this spirit, how are you going to help anybody else? And how are you going to be worth being able to help anybody? Like you're not going to have the energy, you're not going to have the time, you're not going to have the physical strength to be able to help anybody. And so when I say worth, I'm not saying that you're worthless, but I am saying that you will not have what it takes in order to make the impact that you were destined to make. You are the beloved, and you have to remember that. You have to remember that every single day. You have to remember that even when you do get in moments of fear, whether it be the imposter syndrome where you are feeling less than and you are starting to be afraid that someone may find out who you really are, or if you are fear of failure because you don't want to mess up and you don't want to make a mistake. So you have to be perfect in everything that you do. And so you don't want to take risks. And so you have a fear of failures, which ends up just being procrastination, which ends up just being perfectionism, which ends up just being you doing nothing. Because if you can't do it perfect, why would I want to do it anyway? Or if you have fear of success, sometimes it's not fear of failure. Sometimes it's fear of success because we don't want to accomplish or achieve or be successful at something and then have the weight of that thing over our head and on our shoulders of have to carry that success. And we don't know what it's going to bring, the responsibility and the accountability. There are so many different types of fears, but it all boils down to you have not been perfected in love. And so we have to remember that we have to talk to ourselves. We have to encourage ourselves. We have to speak to our spirits and our hearts, and especially our minds, which has a tendency to really go to the negative side instead of staying on the positive thoughts. We have to direct our mind in a way that we think on things that are lovely. We think on things that are pure. We think on things that are holy and honest. We navigate our mind in such a way that, yep, okay, I see you, fear, but you know what? I'm going to remember that I am loved and I am beloved. I am the beloved. And so just remember that this February. So I'm going to be doing some more posts, and I really challenge you all to join me in it, because if we are going to build the life of our dreams, the life that God dreamed for us, the life that he invested the energy, the power, everything that he invested in us, our skills, our talents, if we are going to fulfill and if we're going to live that life, then we have to get to a place where fear starts to be less and less and less. There may not ever be a time where you're going to be fearless, like you have no fear, but we can get to the place where we fear less. And so we want to see that fear come down. It's one thing to have fear of a lion outside and a fear of, of something that is life threatening to your physical body. That's real and that is necessary. We're wired that way to keep, our brains are wired that way to keep us safe. So if we see a lion outside, we should run in the opposite direction. That fear should pop up and we should go in the wrong direction. But where it gets perverted, and I am saying that word, where it gets perverted in us is we allow fear to make our decisions in our everyday lives. And so instead of it being a moment of getting to safety because it's a lion in the road, we allow fear to make decisions for us on a daily basis around what you will and will not do, period. How you will and will not move forward. If you will speak or not speak, if you will do or not do, whether it be that business, whether it be that relationship, whether it be whatever steps you need to take in order to fulfill the life of your dreams, when we start to allow fear to make our decisions and we take our hands off of the steering wheel, that's a dangerous place to be. And I can tell you from personal experience that I've done that and I've dealt with that and I've had to deal with that. I had to get to a place where I was just tired of fear controlling my life and fear making the decisions for me instead of me making my own decisions. And I had to get to a place where I realized, you know what? I am loved and I do not have to keep on punishing myself because fear is punishment. That's what the Bible says. I'll read it again. 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out all fear, for fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. So if you are doing things in fear, you are punishing yourselves. And a lot of times we are punishing ourselves because of something that has happened in our past. We don't think we're worthy. We don't think we're deserving. We think that we are less than because of something that we have been through and experienced. We have to let that stuff go. And we have to be reminded that we are a new creation every single morning. We have new mercies, new grace. We are new. We renew our minds every single day. So we are new. Even from a physical standpoint, every 3 days, your cells in your body literally regenerate themselves. So you slough off the old stuff and new cells begin to appear. And it takes about a cycle of 3 days, 72 hours. So you are literally a new creature every 72 hours and in the making every day. So even from a biblical standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, and then a physical standpoint, you have to remember that you are a new creation, a new creature. Those old experiences, let's gain the wisdom from them and glean from them as learning experiences, and maybe even sometimes faith builders, because God showed up in those moments and he really showed out, even though it felt like a very dark in a valley place. And let's learn from them. But let's not hold on to them as a way to dictate our future and allow fear to creep in and allow fear to tell us that it's lions outside when there's really no lions. It's just fear talking to us. It's just fear roaming around as if it were a lion. And so we have to remember that we are in control of our own lives. God has given us free will, and it is up to us. Either we're going to allow fear to lead us, to guide us, to make our decisions, or we're going to allow God in his love to lead us, to guide us, and to make our decisions. It's very simple, but very hard to do on a day-to-day basis. So I challenge you over the rest of these days of February to really just find ways to sit in God's love, to spend time with him, to spend time with yourself, to love on yourself, do things that make you feel good and make you feel loved, and let go of the things that don't. Let go of the things that don't serve you well. Let go of the things that just do not love on you. It's okay to do that. And so find the time to just sit. Find the time to read 1 John chapter 4, go through it starting at verse 7 and go all the way down, and you'll see, talking about love, how We have to love on ourselves, and how perfect love will cast out all fear. And we do not have to continue to keep punishing ourselves for the past and the experiences that we may have been in, but we can truly be renewed, mind, body, and soul, and be able to go after and build the life of our dreams. So I look forward to talking to you soon. I hope you guys have a great evening. Bye-bye.